Everybody, can you please go on mute, please? Okay. Yeah, so yesterday we have discussed something about link service dataset, and followed by we started discussion on lookup activity. Okay. So we got to know that lookup activity, it's not a data movement activity. If you want to extract data from a particular data set, being it a DLS file or SQL database, we can be able to do that extraction through this lookup activity. Okay, so this is the typical flow when you are talking about ADF, right? So first we'll create link service. So as I mentioned, this is to create the configurations to connect to a particular system, whether it is ADLS, DB, whatever it is, right? So to connect to the system, you need configuration setting. So that we will be providing inside this link service. So once that is done, you need to define the data set. Why? Because data set will tell you what exactly the data is. Okay, so that is the reason we need to define the data set. And then with that, we can design the pipeline. So inside the pipeline, you can have multiple activities based on your use case, and then we'll execute the pipeline. Okay, so this is the typical flow of ADF pipeline creation and what needs to be done prior to create your pipeline. And during that period, of course, we use integration runtime. Okay, so because to execute anything, you need computation in terms of CPU, RAM, memory. Okay, so all that will be taken care by this integration runtime. Okay, and as of now, we are building our pipelines inside ADF GUI, and we are executing inside the ADF GUI itself. So here itself, you are we are executing the application, right? Where it is. Yeah. So here itself we are executing. But definitely once we are done with our development process, and once we are ready with the production deployment, we need to create the triggers, and through triggers we will execute our pipelines. Of course, we will discuss a lot about triggers, how to create triggers, and what are the different type of triggers. We'll discuss those things. So in all these things, we have discussed that link service and integration runtime. It will come under manage, which is one-time activity, and that will be taken care by your infra team. And the remaining things, as a developer, as a data engineer, we have to take care of those stuff, creating pipelines using data sets and creating triggers. So everything will be taken care by us as a data engineers. Okay, so that is about this just pictorial representation. So with that, I'm coming back to the actual story, lookup activity. So yesterday we just started using this lookup activity. So before using this lookup activity, we have created link service to ADLS, and we have created a data set, and we have used that in our ADF pipeline. Okay, so while doing this, right, inside pipelines or data sets or wherever it is, so instead of just creating a pipeline, suppose here, so instead of just creating pipeline, you can manage in terms of different folders, something like that. Why? Because if you create 100 pipelines or something which is related to distant projects, so that will be clumsy. So to manage in a better way, you can create folders. Maybe it is something like sales or some prod migration. So based on your use case, okay, based on your story, maybe you can create folders, and inside that folders, you can create the pipelines. Same way for data sets, I can distribute my data sets according to my use case, and I can create folders, and inside the folders, I can create my data sets. So I just categorized and I have created some folder, something like this, and inside that I'm creating it. Okay, so it's just for learning purpose. And with that, so inside the lookup activity, so what we have done, we have created link service, and we have created data set, and we have used that particular data set which needs to be extracted from a particular ADLS data set. Okay, so that's what we have done yesterday. So today what we will do is we'll create SQL database I think yesterday I have created, but that might have been gone. Okay, so SQL database, and after that, yeah, I have created. So after that, we'll try to extract the data from this particular SQL database as well. Okay, so we'll see that. So this is the SQL database what I have created here, and which is inside this particular server. So yesterday we have discussed about what is server and what is database. Why do we need server and why do we need database? That we have discussed yesterday. So with that understanding, I'm just going to my pipeline. Okay. So inside the pipeline right now, apart from this one, maybe I can make it this as lookup ADLS extraction. So same way, maybe I'll create another lookup. Okay, so you can do copy paste, just Control C, Control V. Okay, so just instead of taking from here, I just took Control C, Control V. Okay, so this one I'll make this as SQL database. So from this lookup, I'm trying to extract data from SQL database. Okay, so inside the settings, of course, you have to create a data set according to your SQL database. So yesterday we have created a data set which points to ADLS. In the same way, you have to create one data set, okay, which points to SQL database. So before creating dataset, of course, you need to have link service as well. So link service is the first point, right? So there you need to provide connection setting to your database. Okay, after that, you can create dataset which points to that. Okay, so with that, maybe let me create one link service which points to database. Link service, new, and here I can say Azure SQL database, continue, link service, Azure SQL database. Okay, I'll use auto integration runtime and then subscription. I'm having this subscription, and inside the subscription, what is your server name? So I have multiple servers inside this, and this is our server. So what we have created for our learning, maybe assume that this is the server which is for your project, TU Trans server. And inside that particular server, what is your database name? So maybe my database name is something TU Trans database. So this is the database what I have created. So during my creation of my database. Okay. So we'll see more into database when we started discussing on SQL topics. Okay. So tomorrow we'll be having SQL session. So there we will discuss on this. Okay, so here, what is your database name? I have selected that. And what about your SQL authentication? So yesterday while creating this, we have seen how to connect to database in two ways. One is through your Entra ID. So this is your Entra ID. And another one is by using your username and password. Okay, so you can create some user ID and password to log into your SQL database. Okay, so I'll be using my user ID and password over here. And apart from user ID and password, there is another concept called Azure Key Vault. So Key Vault, so we have discussed. So if you want to store your user ID and password in a particular service and programmatically you want to extract that instead of providing user ID and password here, you can store that and you can extract from here. So that is another option. But I'll be using user ID and password here, and I'm just doing test connection. So it will tell you whether your credentials and every all settings are proper or not. With this, we have created a link service to database as well. So once that is done, you need to create data set. So to extract the data from the database. Why is this taking this much amount of time? Failed. Uh, Trans to be usually ADML check the link solution is correct. Is not currently available. Okay. TU Trans to be. It's taking time, so just give me a moment. Um, what's happening? Why is this not connecting? Looks like some issue with the database itself. It's not unable to connect to the database. So let us do one thing. Maybe let me create new one and see if I'm able to do that new instance altogether.
Try to connect with SSRs with the server. I used to the sign in the session.
What is that? Yes, yes, and yes. SQL Server man. Okay. That we have not discussed, right? It is HODE. I'm just trying. I'm just trying to create new server. Previous additional settings. Sample. Review and create. Yeah, if it is not done, maybe yeah, we'll go ahead with some other topic and I'll let you know this tomorrow, of course. This is done. Yeah. So now I'll go here and this is our server and database name. Obviously, we need to see that whatever we have created now, 1, 2, 3, and let us try to do test. Okay, connection is successful. Something went wrong there. I'm not sure. So we have created new database. Okay, and we are able to connect to this. And I'm just creating link service. Create. Okay, so this will create link service for the database. Okay, so with that, maybe I'm going back to author. There we need to create dataset, right? So there again, I need to go with the new dataset, and we have to create new data set which respected to your SQL database. So there I'll say ds underscore SQL database, and link service is pointing to SQL DB. So whatever we have created just now. So since it is related to database, right? So the link services you can see only related to database related link services. You can't see link service which we have created for ADLS. Okay, so that's what we are seeing SQL database over here. Okay, so once you do that, what table you want to extract. Okay, so the same way what we have executed for ADLS yesterday, you can be able to select static table name here, or you can make it some parameters over here. So that anyway we can do that. Maybe I'm going with this, and for simplicity, I'm just selecting this particular table. So I want to extract the data from this particular table through this data set. So that's what this data set meant. So we have created this data set. Okay, so data set is ready. And now I'll publish both changes. One is link service and another one is data set. Okay, so with that, maybe I'm going back to lookup. Okay, so by the time of it creates, right? Maybe I can go back to pipeline, and inside the lookup, now we will try to extract the data from SQL database table. So from this settings, you guys know how to do this. So inside the source data set, instead of ADLS, now we have created database, right? So we'll be selecting this SQL database to extract the data from database table. So done. So we are done. So if you see some changes here, right? So based on your data set type, so data set what is being created for database is something looks like this. So you are saying use query, table, query, store procedure, something like this. And when you select ADLS, these things will be gone and you can see something else. So this is related to ADLS, data lake storage, and you are seeing some other options. Okay. So when you are talking about files, your options will be different. And when you are talking about the database, your options will be bit different. I'm not going to discuss everything at this moment of time. That will confuse you a lot. So I'm just taking this table. So I'm going to extract the data from this particular table. So whatever is been defined. Okay. So let me execute this. So that from this particular lookup, I'm able to extract the data from a particular ADLS file. And from this lookup activity, I can be able to extract the data from database table. So from output, you could see how this education is going on. So the database education is completed. And if you see the first row, maybe we have selected only first row. So that is the reason you got only one record from that particular lookup activity. Maybe if you see here, we have selected this. So that is the reason we got only one record out of it. So I'm just removing this and then we can re-execute. Okay, you can re-execute so that you can be able to get all the records from the database table and records from your ADLS file as well. Okay, so that's how you can interact with SQL database and as well as ADLS file. So how to extract the data from the file or table. Okay, so after extraction, what we are going to do, so that we will discuss later. So at this moment of time, just try to understand the activity functionality. Okay, so any questions for me on this? So here, right, maybe let me explain you these things. Okay, so if you want to reduce the size of your activities or increase the size of activities, then you can use this. Since we have only two activities, right? Maybe you are good to see. Maybe if you have 10 or 15 activities and I want to see all at once, or I want to see them in single shot or something like that, right? So that time you can make reduce your things or increase the things. And another part is uh, this choice. So this is something, whatever the activities you have, all the activities will fit into your current window. So that will be taken care by this particular one. So since we have only two, you are saying something like this. And say, for example, let me add few more things. Something like this, right? I want to see all. So if you see here now, so few things are going down up, something like that. So if you say this, all you can see at one window. Okay. And say, for example, I have connected my things, something like this. Okay, so it is really confusing, right? So you no need to make it formal way, like you no need to drag and drop your activities like this. So there is an option. Once you do this, everything will be set all right, and everything is set all right, but you're not seeing all at once, right? So maybe then you can click on this so that all will be coming in a single perfect flow. So that you can do by this auto align, and this will fit complete into your canvas, and this is for plus or minus. Okay, so just remember these choices. Okay, I'm just removing everything. Okay, so whatever we have done, this not required. Okay, and then I'm saving this pipeline. Okay, so this is about lookup. Any questions for me? So how exactly we are going to use this lookup? We'll definitely discuss on this. Well, because inside the ingestion framework, we are going to extract the data from control table. So that will be done by this lookup. And after that, we'll be doing a lot of things on top of this extraction. Okay, so just right now, understand the activity functionality and how to do that. And of course, we'll come back to this lookup again, because we need to discuss a lot. Maybe another 30 minutes we need to discuss on lookup. We need to understand what is this table option, query option, stored procedure option, and all the remaining things. What is this partition? And then if you select ADLS, right? So what about these options? All those things we need to discuss. So after few activities discussion, then I will come back to lookup, and then we'll discuss more on this lookup activity again. Okay, so with that, maybe let me go back to PPT. Okay, so that's about lookup activity. And then I'm jumping into next activity, that is if activity. Okay, so if activity, basically it's a very common functionality and use case in every programming language. If clause or if condition, you could say. Okay, so if something is there, what is your action? And if it is not happening, and there is next condition, if if and else, something like that. So with the condition, what are you going to do? So that logic, maybe if I can say, if a is greater than b, I want to write some logic here. Else, if B is greater than C or A is greater than C, then write some different logic. Else, write different logic. So something like this. It's a very common functionality across any programming language. Okay. Um, yeah. So if you don't understand the programming language point of view, maybe you can understand in your real world, right? Suppose if you have a weekend, and if you have 10K in your hand, you want to do something. You want to go to some pub, and you want to make some dance, and something like that. And if it is you have only 5K in your hand, you want to go to some decent restaurant, and you want to go to some nice movie, and then you need to enjoy that weekend. Else, if you have only 1K, so you can go to some street food, and you enjoy with that food, and you will come back. Else, that means you are not having any money, just sit in your home, something like that. So it's if you have something, do something. If else, if you are not having 10K, then you have 5K, then do something else. So likewise, if some condition is happening, make some arrangement, write some logic. If this is not satisfied, then check some other condition. If that condition is satisfied, then go with different logic. So something like that will be having the common functionality in any programming language. So same way in ADF as well, we have this if functionality, and inside the if functionality, we can be able to write some logic. So let us go to that. And with for that, I'm going to create another pipeline. Okay. So inside this, maybe I'll click on this new pipeline and I'll make this as if. Okay. And to get if, you need to just type here if, and then you can get that if condition. Okay. So to understand this, right, this logic is simple. So if it is Python, right, maybe you can write if a greater than b and write some logic here. Okay. So print. Okay, so something like this. And if it is Unix, you'll be writing your logic inside this, and then you'll be writing something. Okay, so since these are conventional programming languages, you need to write some coding inside your programming language. But here, since it is GUI and it is low code, you no need to write anything. Anything in the sense, of course, you have to write. That is called low code, right? So you have to write something to address, to use these boxes. Okay, but you are not writing some hard code like complex code, something like this. Okay, so this is if activity in your area. And if you see here, you are having, okay, done. So you are having true and false. So that means you are going to write some logic in if class, sorry, in if activity. So if that activity is true, okay, so true meaning that will go into this particular bucket, and whatever you write inside this particular part, so this will be executed. So whatever the activities you are using inside this true activities, all these activities will be executed one by one. Maybe inside this true, you can be able to use 10 activities, 50 activities. That depends on your use case. Okay. So same way, if the condition, whatever you are writing here, that is not true. Okay. So then that will come to this false. And here inside the false, you can write whatever you want again. Okay. So here, maybe suppose, um, yeah, I have given some examples as well. So let me take you to those examples itself. Suppose header with date validation. Say for example, we'll take the same lookup activity. Okay, so inside the lookup activity, I'm trying to extract the data from a particular file, ADLS file. Assume that I'm trying to extract the data from a particular ADLS file. So if that ADLS file, if the first record, I'm always holding my first record as today's date, 30. Okay, and the actual data. Okay, I need to extract the data from that particular lookup file, and I need to check if that particular first record inside that file is having today's date or not. That means you are indirectly validating your file, ADLS file, in such a way that the first record should hold current date. If it is not, then I'll assume that file is not proper file, and I want to make it to, and I'm not going to use that for my processing. So that is my intention. So if that is the case, that logic you will be writing over here. So how do you do? How do you write that logic? We'll see. So before writing that logic, any questions for me? So how do you write the logic? That I'll explain you right now. So as I mentioned, I can be able to use this same lookup file here or get some lookup activity. So I'll set up this, go to ADLS, and maybe not only first row, maybe yeah, you can take only first row. So that is good enough for us, right? So first row, and I need to take this output to this one, right? So how do you do that? Drag this on success to your if activity. So that means once this lookup activity is successful, then execute this particular if condition. Okay, if activity. So to do that, maybe I know that this particular ADLS is pointing to this particular data set. So this data set is holding a dust.txt. So now I'll go back to my storage account and okay, I'll go to storage account, and then container, and inside the income we have created some orders.txt. Okay, so I know that orders.txt is having some uh, meaningful information, but I'm not having header, right? So for this testing purpose, I want to simulate the data. I want to simulate to hold my today's date into this, and I want to test it in my ADF pipeline. So to do that, maybe I don't want to touch my original file, and I want to copy this file. Okay, copy and just paste this. Oh, I said replace. Keep both. Okay, so now I'll go here and I'll rename this if it is required. Maybe I'll say this as orders validation file, something like this, orders validation.txt, and I need to insert some record, right? So the first record I want to update, I want to simulate. So I'll go here and I'll just make this as 2000, what is 26, right? 2026 0130. So this is my first record followed by something else. Okay. So for this example, I'm just considering that first record only, and I'm going to validate through if activity. Okay, so don't assume like if this is something like this and how I'm going to extract this columns. Don't compare with your legacy tools, and don't try to understand while with comparison of your existing tools. Okay, so right now assume that I'm going to compare or validate only for this particular first record. That's it. Okay, so nothing much. Don't think too much. So this is cloud. We are not going to make it complicate, and don't we'll not be writing complicated code. Okay, so now I'll go here. So instead of orders, what I'll do is maybe whatever I have created, right? Validation. So is that the what? Validation, yeah. So validation.txt. So I'll make this to validation.txt. Then I'll try to extract the data from this particular lookup of that particular validation. So I can write the logic here, but before that, right, I want to test whether this is whatever I have done inside this lookup, is that correct or not? So if that is the case, right, if I execute this, of course it will fail because you have not done anything inside this if. Okay, so with that reason, there is an option in ADF. So if I have okay, so one more thing, if you want to bring some activity in between these two activities, you can just go here and you can click on this and you can insert whatever you want, whatever the activity you want, you can insert that particular activity, something like this. Okay, I just added to explain you one concept. I'll remove this after that. Suppose I want to extract, I want to execute only these three activities. I want to ignore this, or I want to execute only these two. So in that case, just click on this, and there is an option called debug until. So when I say this, automatically these will be grayed out. So that means when I execute, only these things will be executed and these will be ignored. So that is what this debug until means. Okay, so since I have only two activities, right, so that is the reason I just added that to explain you. So now what I will do is I'll just make this debug until, so that it will execute only till this point and it will ignore this part. Okay, so that's how you can use the debug until. Okay, and whatever I'm explaining, right, so try to understand that and practice it. And next time, right, I'll not explain you what is this debug until. I just go and use this, and I'll not explain you this, and whatever I explain, I'll not explain that again. Okay, so we'll not be having that much amount of time. We need to learn a lot. Okay, so I'm just executing this. Yeah, since maybe we selected only first row, right? You will be getting only one record. So that is 260130, right? So that will be extracted from here. Okay. So this got extracted. Okay. And I'm not having any column name because we have not given any column name. So that been given as like prop underscore zero, something like that. Okay. So I have done. I've done with lookup activity and I'm able to extract the first record from my file. Okay. So if you want, maybe you can ignore this and you can execute this. That will extract your whole set of data. Okay. So then what I need to do is I need to check whether that first record is having my proper data or not. That you will be writing the logic inside my if condition, if activity. So that's what we discussed, right? So inside the if activity, you have this activities tab. Just go there and you can see expression and then true and false. So as I mentioned, you can be able to click on this edit and you can be able to insert your activities here, or you can very well go into this. It's not a great GUI, right? Okay. So inside this, you can say edit and you can insert activities, whatever you want, insert this true. Okay. So that is how you can insert it. Before that, before writing true activities or false activities, you need to do some expression, right? So whether it is true or false, that has to be decided first. Okay, whether you have 10K or 5K in your hand, so that is first criteria, right? So after that, what do you want? Do you want to go to restaurant or do you want to go to pub? That is different story. So first you need to decide, right? So that expression you have to write inside this particular expression option. So inside the expression, maybe if I say 0 or I can say 1. So that's what 0 or 1. That's what true or false, right? So instead of doing that, of course, we will not be doing this hard-coded static value 0 or 1. You need to write some logic. So I need to write the logic. Okay, so I'm not writing straight away. Okay, so I know what needs to write here, but I'm trying to write in such a way that something like will not get proper result, some errors, how to debug. So some kind of process, some kind of design. So I'm going in that way. So as if I'm learning right now, right? Okay. So add dynamic content. So here I need to write the logic. So what is the logic? This output, whatever the lookup activity output we are getting, so that output, and then I need to compare with today's date. So that is what my intention. So the lookup activity output, and I need to compare with current date value. If both are same, then I need to go with the true. If not same, then I need to go with false. So this is our algorithm, right? So how to do this? Maybe I'll break it down to something like this. How to get the current date value? How to get the current date value in ADF? We have used 2 times or 3 times, I guess. What is that function? To get the date, definitely we need to use date function. What is the date function? It's not UTC, UTC now. Yeah, it's a simple one, right? If you're not practicing, there is no point of attending the sessions and wasting of your time. So remember that. Okay. And this is very simple things. It is something like if you want to do some mathematics, if I ask you tables, right? 2 into 2, 3 into 2, those tables. If I ask you to tell me table 1, 1 into 1 equal to 1, 1 into 2 equal to 2, something like that, right? So that's what we are discussing right now. And how are you going to write the logic for geometry or something like that? Okay. So do practice. If you're not practicing, that's all gone. Yeah. So you'll be getting UTC now to get the current value. Okay. That is one part. And if you stuck somewhere, right? So don't hesitate. It's very common. So if I stuck somewhere here, and while explaining you as well, if I stuck somewhere, I don't feel bad. It's a learning, that's all. Okay, but do practice. UTC now, you'll get current value. And of course, I need to get lookup value. So how to get the lookup value? Maybe go here, inside this add dynamic content. You could see activity outputs, parameters, system variables, functions, and variables. So when you see wait command, or let me open the wait command. Sorry, wait activity, what we have discussed. So inside the wait activity, when you open this add dynamic content, right, you are seeing parameters, system variables, functions, and variables. So this is what we have seen 2 days back. But when you see this if activity, right, apart from that, you have activity outputs as well. So that means you have multiple activities which is using inside your pipeline. And if you want to use the output of these activities, maybe those things you can see over here. So here you are seeing lookup one and lookup one count, lookup value array. Okay, so what do you want? Maybe I want to get lookup activity output. So this output I want to see the output of this. Okay, let it be. Okay, so I want to get the output of this, and UTC now. I need to compare this and this. But what is the output of lookup? Maybe just go here and see what is the output of your lookup. So what is the output of your lookup? You are seeing your output is something like this. Okay, it's a lot. Okay, it's not first row. It is giving a lot of information. But I want only first row, right? Maybe I'll take only first row over here, and let me extract only first row. Okay. It will throw you an error, I guess. Okay. It's not, since we gave 0. So according to the output, you need to understand, and then based on that, maybe we need to write the logic inside your expression. So that's where I'm trying to see what is the output of my lookup. So if I see my output of lookup is something first row, and it is giving some record, something like this. So with that, maybe I'll go back to this, and I'll go this. And if you see here, activity outputs, lookup one and lookup one first row. Okay, so first row, I just extracted first row. Okay, so I know that that first row is giving some value. So this one, I'll replace this with this first row. So now I need to compare whether this and this is equal or not. So if it is mathematics, right? Suppose I'm taking this UTC now into a particular variable, and this will be into different variable. Maybe lookup date equal to this variable. And how do you compare? Simply I can say dt equals to LDT. If maybe I'll compare this, and if it is equal, then I'll write some logic. Else, I'll write some other logic. So this is what we do in regular mathematics. Okay, in any programming language. In here, right, in ADF, we will not be having such kind of logic. Instead of that, we will be having functions. So here the functionality is simple. Whether if these two are equal, then I need to do something. So for that, you'll be having some function. So that function, maybe if you want to search everything, you can go to this logical functions, and you can understand what are all the different functions available in my logical functions. So one function, what I could see is equals. Okay, so equals of some 1 comma 1. So if I say something like this is true. Okay, so that means 1 and 1 are equal, right? So that is the reason that will be true. And 1 comma 0, it will become false. Okay, so same way, now what I need to do, I need to compare this output and as well as this one, whether both are same or not. both are equal or not. Okay, so with that, maybe I'll replace this with UTC now. And second thing, what I need to compare? I need to compare my activity output. Okay, so if both are same, then I'll consider that as true. Okay, so I'll be doing something here. If it is false, I will be doing something here. Okay, since we have not discussed a lot in ADF, maybe what we'll try to do is whether this if activity is working perfect or not. To understand that, maybe we'll create some variables inside variables, and we'll set that particular variable inside this true and false, and we'll try to understand how is this if activity is behaving. So to do that, maybe I'll create one temporary variable, maybe some temp. Okay, maybe I'll create this as integer. And here inside my true, I'll set this variable. Set this variable to suppose 100. If it is true, 100. And if it is false, and this is what I'm saying, maybe set variable, I'm not going to explain you again, and I'll not do it slowly because you all already might have practiced this. If not practice, I can't do anything. Okay, so that is how I just made the expression. If the expression is true, I'm going to set my variable to 100. And if it is false, I'm going to set that to 10. Okay, so just to understand whether how this if activity is working. Okay, so here indirectly what I'm saying is our intention here is to understand the functionality of if activity. Our intention is what to write inside true, what to write inside false. That is not our intention right now. Okay, so what to write inside this, maybe we'll see. We'll going forward, right? After a couple of activities, we'll try to understand how to write inside this true and false. Okay, so with this, I'm just executing this. Okay, I'm not sure if it behaves properly or not. We'll debug. We will debug further and we'll try to understand more. Okay, so this is executed, and now I could see this is 0130, and condition got executed successfully, and now it went to some set variable. Okay, so what is the set variable to? So if you would have given proper naming convention, maybe you will try to understand just by looking at this. If you instead of giving set variable this one, maybe I can go here and maybe I can say set variable inside the true block. So if I say this, just by looking at your uh, execution itself, you can understand what is this talking about. Set variable false. Okay. So the execution is saying it went to false condition and we got a 10 as output. Okay. So that means the expression, whatever we have written, so the expression result is false. Okay. But I want to debug. Why? Because the first row it is saying 2026 0130. Definitely UTC now is also, this points to the same, right? So UTC now means it will give you current date. So what is the current date? The current date is 0130 only. But why am I getting differently? Why I'm going into false? Why is this not giving you true? Why? So if this is the case, how do you debug? Suppose you end up with this same thing and you want to debug this. You want to understand why is this happening and what is your next step. And also always don't think in terms of a technology. Suppose I'm not asking you in terms of ADF. Okay. So if you got this scenario, how do you debug? what is your next step? Just algorithmic point of view. That's what I meant. Concept. Learn the concepts. Don't learn the technology. Don't learn syntaxes. Learn the concept. Learn the algorithmic point of learning so that you can adapt to any technology easily. So your learning should be something like that. So if you have this scenario and I want to know why is this not giving true, why is this going to false? It is simple. Why UTC now and this output both are not same? If I say if A equal to B, write some logic, right? Else some other logic. I'm expecting to execute this logic, but it is going into this else part. Why? So simply what you do, whether this A and B are equal or not, you'll just try to debug that. If both are same, then it should execute, right? Why is this going to else part? So same way, I'll try to understand whether this UTC now and this value, whatever we are getting, so whether those two are equal or not. So whether they both are giving you the same value or not. So how do you get to know that? Maybe just for debugging purpose. So what we can do is you just create some variables. Okay, maybe I can create current date and lookup output. Okay, I'm just creating two variables and I'm trying to grab that same values into two variables. And so that whenever I execute, right, I'll get to know whether those are pointing to proper data or not. And what I'll say is I'll just execute till this point. I don't want to execute if condition again. I don't want to see that. I just want to execute till this point and I want to see the output. How is this behaving? So inside the set variable, I'll go here and I'll set current date and current date. I'll make it to maybe you can go here and you can say UTC now, right? And then for this particular variable, go here, select lookup output. And for lookup output, what we have used there, we have used first row as comparison inside my equals. Okay, so that's what we have used here. So the same thing I want to use there and I want to see what is the output of that. Okay, so simply I'll execute this. So now I will get to know what is the output of UTC now and what is the output of this particular uh, activity output dot first row. So that I'll see whether both are equal or not. If not equal, what we need to do? Simply we know that I need to compare this and that, but we are not getting it right. Why is that not happening? Okay, we got some failure. Object, the variable string. Okay, so here if you see whatever you're getting as lookup output, so that is it is saying it's a kind of object data type. It's not a string data type, but we are trying to assign to string. Okay, so but this one maybe you'll be seeing the output something like this. You are getting some output like this, but we know that our output is pointing to 2026 0130 only, not this entire timestamp or time zone we are not seeing in my lookup output. So if this is the case, how do you get only this part 2026 hyphen 01 hyphen 30 to 2026 0130? So this also we discussed how to convert into a particular date format. Okay, so maybe that you can apply over here. Okay, so that failure will go back. So here, if you're not sure, you just go here and search for this R ChatGPT. So anything is fine. So here we'll be having format date time, and inside this format date time, you have to use this UTC now, comma YYYY Okay, so that it will convert into this particular format. So that's what we are expecting to compare. So this is done. This part is done. And now here, the error message is saying the lookup output is giving 2026 0130. 2026 0130. So this is the case. How do you get only this part 2026 0130? So simply the object data type, but we are trying to assign that to string data type. Okay, so if this is the case, what needs to be done? So basically, you are extracting complete object. So we are trying to extract this complete object into this particular string. So what do you mean by object? So object is something, if you see here, this is something key and this is something value. So since we have only one, we are getting something like this, or you will be having column name value, column 2 value, column 3 value, something like that you'll be getting. So that is called object data type. Okay, so now what we are trying to do, we have defined this variable lookup out, and we are trying to assign that object data type to string data type. So that is the reason it is not accepting. So maybe for that, what I can do is from the output, right? From lookup output, in my first row, I have this prop underscore 0. So from this particular part, I will try to extract prop 0. So instead of entire first row, I'll try to extract only this part, the value of that particular property 0. So in this case, it will extract the value of this particular column alone. Okay. So for learning, it is a bit difficult, but working will be very easy. When you get this error, right, immediately you can copy paste into ChatGPT. That will tell you. So what needs to be done. So let me see what is the output now. So if you see your current date value is something like this, and your set variable value is also same now. Okay, so now we got the same values. Now we'll remove this and we'll execute the total pipeline. And if you see right now, so that's what I meant this. So I'm having so many things and it is not proper, right? So I can simply select this, or you can do this so that everything will be aligned properly. The area of GUI is not so great, but once you start working on this, you'll used to with this one. Okay, again it went to false. But our expectation is why? Why is this going to false? Any guess? So we, mhm. Yeah, please go ahead, Ramak. Simple mistakes. That's all. See, we have written something like some logic like this. Okay, at set variable, not at if condition. So inside this, we have not made any change, right? Actually, we are supposed to do that change. So these two we have to compare. Okay. So what to write here? So to debug that, we have used these two. So otherwise, there is no point of using these two variables. We can simply remove these two and we'll try straight away current this lookup to if activity. Okay. So just for debugging purpose, I've used those set variables. So it is simple, right? Like if you are writing some logic in your Unix or Python, so to debug, what do you do? Maybe you'll be writing some print statements or echo statements to understand what is the value of this parameter or that variable and what is the content of this particular file. So you'll be writing this. So the same way, if you want to debug, you'll be using the set variables and you'll try to debug, and once done, you'll be removing them from your pipeline. So it will go to true now. So this way we will be using this if condition. Okay, let it execute. So I'm coming back to PPT. So here, if example, this is what we just discussed. And I have explained you guys just to understand how to write the logic inside if activity. Okay, so these are the different scenarios where maybe you can use this if activity. Suppose I have some extracting the data from a lookup file. Okay, so if the lookup file value is greater than 0, then only I want to execute something. So if that is the case, I can use this greater. Greater is another function. Just like your equals, we have greater, greater than, some functions will be there. So same way, so this is what we have discussed just now. If you want to compare current date with some file date, you can do this. And suppose while executing, right? So if it is environment is production, I want to do some extra configuration settings and extra security I want to perform, then you will be using this environment is production or not. If environment is production, then I will do something here. If it is not, then I can go ahead and write some logic inside my false. So same way, maybe get metadata we have not discussed. We'll discuss. If get metadata activity size is greater than 0, then we'll do something. Other than that, I can go with false. So again, I'll come back to this if when we discuss about this get metadata activity. Okay, so everything is interrelated. Maybe few guys might think, why can't you say this if activity after get metadata activity? So still there will be some gaps. Okay, so that's why we are discussing slowly, and again we'll come back to this, to that, and we'll go here and there. Okay. Yeah. Now if you see, it went to true activities. Okay, so with this condition true. So this in this, right? So the main important thing you need to remember is this expression. So how do you write the expression for your if activity? Okay, so that is more important. So with that, maybe I can conclude on this if activity. Any questions for me? Okay. Yeah, maybe I'll stop here for today, and we'll continue tomorrow, not tomorrow, Monday. So tomorrow we'll be having SQL session from morning 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. So 2 hours, Saturday, 9 to 11 a.m. Okay, so please attend. So if you're good enough with SQL, maybe you can skip. So the guys who are interested, please join tomorrow 9 to 11 a.m. Okay, and switch activity and other activities will proceed further from Monday, same time. Okay, I'm just stopping here.